Yo, what up, dude? So I want to talk real quick. There's been some questions surrounding like when I talk about like the corkscrew of the hips and the hip hinge, and like when is that occurring? What does that look like? What is the feedback? What is the feeling? All of these different things. And I guess the first thing I want to talk about is like the feedback is going to be different. Obviously, I can't give you my feedback and then all of a sudden you kind of just click. But the general feedback's something that you're going to have to shoot for. But anyways, so breaking down the delivery, I don't know why I just put my glove down, but what I teach, and again, I know a lot of people are kind of go about this differently, but hopefully something that I say here could potentially click. So when I break down the delivery and different kind of segments in the delivery, the biggest key component is what I talk about in the drive phase. So the drive phase is from the phase in which we reach peak leg lift, and then we descend from that, and then we drive all the way until our front foot touches the ground. So the period from before our front foot touches the ground to the period after peak leg lift is considered that drive phase. So we want to optimize that drive phase. Fumble Ruski. So the question is now, how can we best optimize that? That's where I think about, teaching the corkscrew of the hips and staying connected with the heel, and essentially trying to get into a better pattern from the hip hinge, aside from like quad dominance. So the corkscrew of the hips, I kind of give this certain setting. Here's a slider. This is going to be an over exaggerated feeling here, but peak leg lift and then driving into our phase, we're going to look at something like that. So if you look at like putting a corkscrew into a wine cap and you corkscrew that a little bit, you're getting into this pattern of that move right there. Right? So that's why I kind of like this slider setting here, because your foot can move. Obviously, it's not going to move drastically like this when we're pitching on a mound, but it's overemphasized that feeling of peak leg lift, now entering the drive phase, corkscrewing those hips, boom, right? So now what you've done is you've kind of rotated your lower half. You're getting better positioning in with this hinge. You're staying connected with the ground. Now you can build up this torque, staying closed here, building up this rotational energy storage, right? So essentially the more that we keep this closed and hinged and counter rotated, we're building up this storage of rotational energy, and then when it comes open and we go to throw, obviously we've built up enough to go. So that's why I was saying, like something like a slider here, just giving you that overemphasize of the hinge or the corkscrew in the hips. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's this part of your hip from peak leg lift getting into that. So if we can corkscrew that, right? So we can get into that better position and hold that. So now our foot's connected. We're actively engaging, our glutes, our hamstrings in this throw, and then we're going down to the drive phase, utilizing an optimal amount of ground force production, and then going. The flip side of that is guys that don't necessarily get into that hinge or that corkscrew motion of the hips. They get very, kind of sacrifice posture a little bit by going forward, getting disconnected from the heel essentially right away in their drive phase. So now what they're having to do is they're having to compensate. So they're utilizing more of this quad. They're having to compensate from the direction from now going forward, trying to catch back up on line. Sometimes this is where you see guys that have that knee position go here. So you're utilizing muscles, but you're not activating the biggest muscles in the body that we want to activate back here, right? And you're also getting into a position where you're sacrificing an essential amount of hip shoulder separation. You're not using as much ground production as you can, like I said, with the heel disconnecting. So that alone is going to take you away from a little ground force production. But obviously everyone's going to do it differently. Compensation, I think it gets demonized, but compensation could also, provide you with more velocity than someone else, so it's always tricky. But that's what I kind of teach as far as getting that corkscrew, getting into that hip hinge, right? So if you're struggling with the actual move, as I said, the slider kind of gives you that overemphasized feedback of what that feeling is when you get that hip into that position right there, right? Boom. We talk about vertical shin, almost kind of the same thing. And then another one is I don't really have a great wall around me, so I'll use like a stick. But if you have a wall, you can put your hand up like that. So here, press into it. Same thing, kind of gives you the feedback of getting into the hip hinge. So it's leg lift and then boom, press against the wall. Think about pressing down into your heel. You're gonna feel that activation. Boom. It's the same thing when you like go to deadlift, right? That first move is back, right? Back sitting in to those instead of just going forward and down, right? Kind of the same concept. Back, try to push your butt as far away as you can. Kind of the same thing here in the delivery. Boom, boom. That's that corkscrew. I got a little off balance there, don't do that. But hopefully that cleans that up as far as the timing, the drive phase period, what we want to maximize in that period of time. And yeah, but at the same time, to round it out. Biggest key is like, it's tough because you don't want to put a ton of mental emphasis on this. You don't want to be thinking about these positions because remember, like this is all occurring in less than 3 seconds. So I think the more, you know, that's why the drill settings and stuff, like segmenting each part of the delivery is so crucial, because we can't think about 11 different things in a matter of 2.5 seconds, right? From boom, 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 all of those things occurring, because then you're going to take the feedback away because you can't segment your brain on one specific area of the delivery, and you're going to start moving like a robot because your body cannot operate while this is actively thinking about 300 different things. So my encouragement to you is like segment one tiny little piece being maybe you're just trying to feel that little corkscrew of the hips and feeling that rear hip kind of sit back, boom, and that's all you're feeling. So now when I go to throw, that's all I'm feeling throughout this whole move. Like everything else is going to take care of itself. Here we go. Boom, boom. That's all I wanted to felt pretty good. Maybe we can overemphasize in a drill setting. Maybe I shouldn't throw next time. All right, let's do it. Here we go. Leg lift, boom. All right, that's it. All right. So that's that process.